Dandadan is weird.
おっぱい吸わせてやるからよ。
Very weird. It's so weird, in fact, that you could get death threats just by mentioning certain scenes. And yet, against all the odds, I'm here to tell you, those scenes are necessary to Dandadan's story. So how does a show about a grandma who can't resist his high schooler's extremities end up producing episodes that the internet collectively deems a contender for episode of the year?
That's pretty good.
Well, it's because of this.
何が玉がないっす。
Now, you were probably expecting me to show you a bunch of emotional scenes from episode 7, but I showed you all these goofy scenes instead. And the reason is, I don't think episode 7 could have shined so much in a story like Dandadan without weird scenes to contrast it. But in order to understand why the weird scenes are so important to our enjoyment of the series, we need to look at how they benefit Dandadan's narrative. Because weirdness in Dandadan isn't just a gimmick, it's part of the show's core identity and a tool the author and production use to create an artwork that's both chaotic and heartwarming. At its core, Dandadan is a series that thrives on contrast. Take Silky's backstory. This emotionally resonant moment wouldn't have hit the same if it weren't surrounded by the antics of characters like Aira. Her Chunibyo personality, her over-the-top belief that she's the chosen one, and even the absurd good luck charm moment create this chaotic environment for the story. This is half of Dandadan's essence. Dandadan is energetic, loud, funny, all in almost a blissfully childish way. But then almost immediately after the stage is set, we get this narrative switch. We hit that crescendo with Silky where the world slows down and we're left with nothing but this mother and her daughter, and it's beautiful. The story takes a step back and just delivers this incredibly heartwarming scene that ends in bittersweet tragedy, almost in the exact opposite way that Dandadan normally presents itself. But to tie it all together, we then get Aira, who finally accepts Silky and fulfills her request by calling her mother. The contrast between the frantic energy and the slow emotional scenes makes it all the more impactful. And even beyond that, the contrast of Aira's typical personality and her now just showing these incredible levels of compassion for a seemingly evil spirit shows just how deep this story can grab a hold of you. This is Dandadan's entire essence. It takes the weird, loud, and unexpected and uses it as a foundation for moments of genuine depth. The absurd comedy and high-energy antics don't detract from the story, they simply amplify it by making the emotional scenes feel earned. And this balance is everywhere in Dandadan. For every weird aspect, there's a wholesome side. For example, the dynamic between Momo and Okarun. Their relationship is packed with bizarre humor and unpredictable moments, but it's also the emotional backstory of the entire series. The weirdness surrounding them, from banana-loving aliens to Turbo Granny, creates a dynamic where their genuine heartfelt connection feels all the more touching. By keeping the audience off balance with its eccentric side, Dandadan makes its wholesome moments land twice as well. That unpredictable nature of Dandadan is what keeps viewers engaged. It's a series that refuses to follow conventional formulas, jumping between genres and tones with the most reckless freedom it can. One moment you're laughing at something absurd, and the next you're reflecting on a deeply emotional revelation. This constant push and pull between the chaotic and the heartfelt is what makes the show feel so unique. The weirdness isn't just a decoration, it's a vital part of the storytelling that gives Dandadan its identity. And we've seen plenty of anime try to use this weirdness as a gimmick, and it almost never works. I mean, just think of how much garbage, wacky anime concepts we've seen in the last 4 years, and then think of all the anime you've actually enjoyed in the last 4 years. Notice how it likely doesn't overlap all that much? But because of how easy it is to grab people's attention with a title like, "My lover was stolen and I was kicked out of the hero's party, but I awakened to the EX skill, fixed damage, and became invincible." Yes, that's a real title. A lot of anime try to use that to grab some quick notoriety, but almost none of them manage to actually use it in the narrative as naturally as Dandadan does. Dandadan uses it as a tool to balance and progress the story. It creates this equilibrium that embraces the serious tones and the comedic tones to create a balanced finished product. It doesn't rely on its eccentric elements as a crutch, instead it uses them to complement the serious tones and emotional arcs, molding a story that actually feels fresh and impactful. And speaking of impactful, episode 7 does something I typically despise in anime. Building a character's evil and then using a flashback as they die to make you feel bad for them is a tactic I usually find cheap, a trick to manipulate emotions and make the episode feel more impactful, trying to get you to remember it fondly. But Dandadan is a different story. For once, it isn't a cheap trick, it's not a pointless emotional scene meant you to get to like her. Rather, there's a narrative value in giving Silky a sentimental goodbye. Aira was a character we were just introduced to. She seemed like a hyper-stylized anime archetype, the pretty girl with Chunibyo delusions, basically a mini gag villain.
Team Rocket blast off at the speed of light.
But with Silky's backstory, she becomes grounded. Her character gains a basis in some realm of realism, and suddenly her role feels purposeful in the story. She isn't just a gag character anymore, she's a character who feels and thinks like any other character would. And this isn't the first time we've seen this balance in Dandadan. Okarun and Momo have serious emotional stories. Each of them have a real problem with real emotions, and they're making progress in solving these problems. They each fill this void in one another that helps them grow individually, and that makes their comedic sides feel less jarring. Once again, it's about balance and contrast. Contrast is Dandadan's key to elevating the emotions you feel, and the balance of that contrast creates what's tying the story together. The weirdness makes the heartfelt moments feel more bold, the scary moments feel more unnerving, and the comedic moments more hilarious. Without these eccentric elements, Dandadan would lose so much of its charm and emotional resonance. So whether it's an ancient PDF file grandma or a dancing mother with attachment issues, every strange moment in Dandadan serves a purpose. It's not about shock value, it's about writing a story that's vibrant, unpredictable, and deeply human. The weirdness doesn't just exist for its own sake, it's the spark that makes Dandadan a standout experience, or what other people call anime of the year. In essence, Dandadan proves that weirdness, when done right, can be more than just entertainment. It can bring value to the emotional depth of a story, creating a balance that keeps us coming back for more with a smile on our face. And that's why Dandadan isn't just weird, it's weird for a reason.